Okay, so welcome everybody. This is the EA for Christians Summer 2021 members meeting. You can think of this as sort of like an annual meeting. We haven't done one of these before, so I'm not sure what you're expecting, and hopefully this breakout we just had was helpful for clearing up where people are coming from. But yeah, I'd just like to get started, and at first I'd just like to pray for this time real quickly and ask God to be in our midst. So if you would pray with me. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this community. We thank you for your son, Jesus, most of all, and for what he did for us on the cross and the life he lived and the model that he serves for us all. We also pray for this community and its mission and its future. We think effective altruism is a great way to better love and serve our global neighbors. And we ask that you would just steer our course towards what you will. In Jesus' name, amen. So I think everybody here is familiar with the organization, but I just want to recap in case you're wondering, what is this org? What is EA for Christians, or EACH as we commonly refer it as? Oh, and one thing before I get started, I actually want to share one thing I forgot to share earlier, which is Slido, which is a way to share questions with the group. And oh man, I just jinxed myself. I got to get back to the Zoom page to share that in the comments section. So Slido is something we use at the conference. It's a great way to ask questions about anything and for everybody to upvote questions they like. You just click on the thumbs. And if you click on the thumb, then it gets a vote and that question rises to the top. So I would encourage you to just drop questions during this presentation. So yes, this is the EA for Christians 2021 annual members meeting. And in case you're wondering, what is EA for Christians or EACH? We are a global community of Christians committed to serving others as well as possible, drawing on ideas from effective altruism. And we inspire and equip others to do likewise. If you're wondering what effective altruism is, it's both an idea and a community. It's focused on using evidence and careful reasoning to figure out the very best ways to improve the world, and then acting on that basis. So what is this call about? This is an organization-wide gathering outside of our annual conference, which up to now was the only time we had such an organization-wide gathering. And we want to discuss key matters about the org. Who are the members anyways? Well, we don't have up to now a super formal demonstration of membership. Really, I would consider a member anyone who's attended an EA for Christians event and identifies with our general mission. And our membership is presently defined or signaled to by our community directory. You can find that on our website.
Katie,
Oh, is it not sharing?
Okay.
Oh, okay. Thank you for interrupting me. All right, take 3. Here we go. Share screen. Great. So I'll just go ahead and scroll through here. Yes, a roadmap for this call. We'll spend the first 10 or 15 minutes giving updates about EA for Christians. Then we'll look at next steps for members, including a new opportunity. And then we'll move on to Q&A or an Ask Me Anything with myself, also with the staff and steering group, many members of which are on this call. Starting out with updates, I want to first share a timeline of our organization, then look at the general mission and strategy, and then look at each today, looking at the current staff, current projects, also goals and challenges for the future. So a quick timeline of each. To give perspective, in 2011, about 10 years ago, the Center of Effective Altruism was formed. And then a few years later, the Christians in EA Facebook group was founded by Andy Krismer, he's on this call, followed by the EA for Christians website, which was led by Dominic Rozier and I think was also created by Alex Ratti, David Lawrence, and some others. Shortly thereafter, the steering group was formed, which is our leadership team. And over the next few years, the organization developed. It was very much a grassroots sort of organization. And by 2020, we reached the critical mass to have an annual conference. And we had, I think, about 80 people logging in virtually to that. We also applied to be a registered charity in the UK. And then in 2021, our community grew even further. We brought on some staff part-time, a few full-time for just a short duration over the summer. And we see that trajectory continuing. We think as an organization, we're still very much in the beginning of the life of the organization. And we'll hope to talk about that future here. So what is Aegis' goal? We mentioned earlier that we're interested in inspiring and equipping Christians with insights from effective altruism. And I think these insights can be distilled into a better stewardship of resources. By this, we're talking about use of money, use of time, and also use of our voice or our advocacy. We would really love more Christians to donate to highly effective charities or make plans or pledges to do so. In terms of time, we would love for more Christians to dedicate their time to the most important causes. We think two ways to do this would include high impact careers or effective volunteering. And in terms of voice, we would love if more Christians share their stories and EA values with others, encouraging others to follow this example of stewarding money well, stewarding time well, and spreading that global community. So in terms of our audience, we are interested in bringing this message to anybody, but I think it's safe to say that up to now, we've had a particular emphasis on university students and more recently seminarians as well, with some of what Caleb Huffman's doing in seminary in New York City. Also, especially in the US and the UK. We're interested in reaching out to young professionals, people who are recently out of college or within 5 years out of college, because these people especially are making really pivotal career decisions. We're also interested in reaching out to academics. And again, this is another project, but we think this might take momentum for more each work in the future. I think it might be helpful to look just at a very basic marketing funnel, just to give an idea of what events are targeting for whom and how we kind of conceptualize this EA journey that people are on. And I think you can think of it very much like the traditional funnel, where at first people are unaware of EA and these ideas, but eventually they become aware, they become interested, they consider making key EA decisions, then they form an intent to do so, and then they finally do so, and then they develop some sort of loyalty to this. And these decisions includes things like effective donation, career plan change, or identifying as or sharing effective altruism. And I don't want to oversell this specific model. I think this just maybe helps to give a conceptual idea of what we're doing here and what events are what each specific event is doing along this funnel. And I think we can summarize it in 3 simple ways. We're interested in, with these events, generating more interest and connecting with those people. We're interested in nurturing people who are already interested and equipping them with more knowledge. And then we're interested in retaining these people in our community and supporting them along the way with their EA commitments and convictions. Each today, it's led by the steering group that consists of 7 members, which meet approximately once per month, and they steer each regarding major decisions and strategy. We also have 6 staff. We've got David Lawrence doing the book writing and helping with lots of strategy. I do a lot of community events and general tasks. Caleb Huffman is the research coordinator, and he's also in charge of building our community in New York City. Johnny Rogers is helping us make videos and helping us with other content. Veza is a community facilitator. He's doing so many general tasks and really filling in a lot of gaps very well. And Asha is developing and introducing our intro course, like an alpha course for Christians, to give an analogy, and also leading forward the community building in the UK. So in total, in terms of staff, we probably have about 2 full-time employees if you were to add up everybody's hours. And I would say that's pretty inconsistent. So at some points in time, it's more like 1.5, and at other points in time, like this summer, it was a bit more with maybe 2.5. And yeah, this is also a bump up from what we had, say, a year ago. A year ago, it was much closer to just maybe 1 full-time employee. In terms of each project, you could break this up into 6 different categories: admin, global community building, local community building, resources, communications, and outreach. I want to just quickly look at some goals and some challenges for each of these projects. Some goals over the next 6 months: we would love to finish our US-UK charity registration. We'd love to transition into more smooth management in 2022. And we'd like to release an annual survey, and in that measure key performance indicators like how many people are attending events, how many people are making key decisions related to effective giving, effective career, sharing EA, and so forth. Another goal, but under global community building, would be to have more one-on-ones with organizers. In these one-on-ones, we really try to get people to dig deeper into EA and really get one step closer to getting connected and making key decisions. We'd love to increase the event attendance by continuing our regular events like the Sunday calls, but also offering new events like workshops, like guest speaker series, and so forth. We've been averaging around 20 people, but we'd like to bring that up. We'd also like to do more retreats. So with regards to local community building, we'd like to have monthly meetups in New York City and in UK. And we'd like to build up a critical mass. That might just take 1 or 2 meetups to reach there. It might take several meetups or longer. We're not sure yet. In terms of resources, there's a lot of projects here, but 2 key goals are the book project, which is being led by Dominic and David. In 6 months, we'd love to have the main text drafted plus a publisher confirmed, and also completed intro videos to help us give a shareable video about what EA for Christians is for all of us to share with friends and interested people. Communications, we'd love to see a boost in engaged users, especially on our key communication channels like Facebook and the newsletter. And then with regards to outreach, we're doing university talks with a group called One for the World. And we'd love to expand that with other university groups. We'd love to give, over the next 6 months, 2 university talks a month, and then just build it up from there. We're also introducing our intro course to EA. Here are some challenges. I don't want to go through each of these, but if you're interested in reading over these challenges, I do encourage you to read through the slides. I'll be posting the slides later. And we can also talk maybe a bit later about how the community can help us overcome these challenges. So moving on to that, how you might be here asking, how can I further Aegis mission? And I think there are really 3 ways to take action. So the first is to continue a lifestyle of excited and effective giving. And one key way to do that is to make some kind of giving pledge, something like the Giving What We Can pledge for 10%, or making a further pledge, or making your own pledge, making it personal to you, maybe setting some income cap or whatever that is for you. I would really encourage everybody here to make some kind of giving pledge, regardless of how small or how large it is. Also, we want to help you to do this better, to give more effectively, and also to give in Christ's name. So with Mike's help and with One for the World's infrastructure, we created a Christian giving fund. And this allows you to give well charities. And you can do that through our organization. It's called the Christian Campaign for Effective Charity. And we encourage you to try it out, give us feedback on it, and share it with your network. You can find this on our website if you go to eaforchristians.org and then you go to the Giving Campaign tab. So the first way you can take action is continuing a lifestyle of excited and effective giving. Second, what you can do is continue to engage with high impact career or volunteer opportunities. So I think everybody on this call knows about 80,000 hours and their job board. We're in a unique position where we have a small but very strong community of people who are very passionately interested in effective careers and also have networks, and they have opportunities and interest in supporting other members. So we're in the unique position to offer mentorships and networking among Christian EAs. Up to now, we've had just two ways of, well, up to now, really one way to encourage this, and that's been our community directory. And this is a directory of members all over the globe. Right now, I think we have about 110 people on there. And if you're not on there yet, I would encourage you to join. Step one is to join. Step two is to message other Christian EAs who are aligned with your cause areas, who are interested in the same things you are, or who would like mentorship or menteeship. And then to do that regularly, to check back once a month or once a quarter and go forward with that. A new way that we can incorporate the community is with a volunteer task board. And this is like a job board, but rather like a task board for projects led by each community members. And right now, if you go to our website and you go under community and volunteer task board, if you scroll down, you'll find an Airtable or just a simple table with opportunities for volunteering, which are particularly important for our organization or any other partner organizations who want to post here. And you can post your own opportunities or accept opportunities here. The next steps for getting involved are all listed there. To show you what that's like, here's just an example. And this could change a bit. The fields might change. This is all very, very beta. But here's an example of a few different volunteer opportunities. One thing that you might do is check the summary. For instance, this opportunity, book editing, you can read the summary here. Dominic and David are writing a book, and they'd love to get more feedback from community members. They need feedback, comments on the intro and other chapters. It gives a time commitment and next steps for how you can get involved. And you can add tasks yourself very easily. There's a link for that. So that's the second way you can get more involved in furthering Aegis' mission, is by continuing to engage with high impact career and volunteer opportunities, especially in the two ways we have here with our community directory and our new volunteer task board. A third way to take action is to share about effective altruism and just to stay connected in our community. So, and I don't even want to limit that to EA for Christians. I think it's totally valid and reasonable to get plugged in with other active EA communities. Although I think our community does have a lot of special value adds. Like, I think we're very tight knit and we're very intentional, and we also emphasize so many important aspects to Christian life, like grace and like scripture and Jesus as a role model. So I think we really do offer a lot that other EA groups maybe might not offer for Christians, but I would fully encourage you to get plugged into a local EA group that isn't associated with each. In terms of how to stay connected, we have a few communication channels right now. Our most reliable is the Facebook group, Christians and Effective Altruism. You can also go to our website. And then next up after that, it would be our newsletter and our London WhatsApp group. We're also trying to reboost our Twitter and some other social media channels, though right now these are definitely the most reliable. And in terms of events, we're continuing our regular online events. We have our Sunday discussions, our Saturday group prayer. We have VESA leading reading groups right now. Those are bi-weekly. And we also have workshops and guest speakers, not to mention some intro talks that we'll be leading for new members. And we have in-person events kicking off this semester. And we'll have those in New York City and in London or in Cambridge, maybe a combination of both. And we're aiming to do those monthly. We also have regional retreats. In New York City, there'll be one in just like a week now. It'll be a small size because of COVID, but we're looking to do more of these regional retreats. And we also have an annual conference in late spring 2022. So thanks for listening to me talk. Right now, I'd love to switch over to Q&A. And right now, the next members meeting is just preliminarily scheduled for 6 months from now. That might change, but I hope to continue something like this going forward. So right now, I'd love to pull up the Slido and look at some questions. If you haven't posted any questions now, I'd encourage you to add them. And if you see questions there, then please upvote the ones that you would like me to address. So the first question is, will the conference stay online post-COVID? Or will there be in-person conferences and retreats as well? And as far as these questions go, I'll answer them. And if I don't have the best answer, I'm happy for any other steering group member to fill in, or any other staff member as well. So we're hoping that every single year we will have some part of the conference online. In fact, that's been discussed. And I think it's safe to say we definitely will have online aspects to future conferences. That being said, next year we are planning on having some in-person conference, and that, of course, COVID permitting and world catastrophe permitting, right? So the second question I see upvoted is, how does each fit into the broader EA movement? Another good question. So I think it needs to be said, we don't have formal ties with the Center of Effective Altruism, but we are broadly supportive of other EA organizations, and we are just overall very positive of EA ideas and bringing these to Christians. So I think you can consider each as kind of like an identity group within EA. There are dozens of different EA organizations, and each organization has its own specific flavor and its own specific emphasis. And we're chiefly concerned with bringing EA insights, broadly speaking, to Christians. So if you have any more specific questions about that and what we do or don't endorse, you can share. But I think that suffices right now. So how is the staff funded? That's the next question I see. How is the staff funded? Is this model likely to change soon? So right now, the staff is funded from numerous anonymous donors. And with regards to whether this model is likely to change soon, this isn't something the steering group has discussed lately, and perhaps it's something we should discuss, though right now the donors are anonymous, and we are interested in diversifying our funding sources, but we're not actively soliciting funding, if that makes sense. So if you're interested in supporting us, I'd love to have a call and I can connect you with the steering group, but we're not looking to solicit that actively from our members. So another question is, how can we measure our own impact to demonstrate to ourselves and others that we're doing EA in addition to discussing it? I think that's a really great question. It's also very hard. Some nights I wake up and I wonder in the middle of the night, like, is everything I'm working on right now really the best thing I can be doing right now? I think it's just such an honest and healthy question. And I think we all have to admit that at any given time, we're trying our best, but we can't be too sure. But if we're talking with others about our goals and we're putting forward a sincere effort, that we're probably on the right track. And I think this group is one way that, in terms of weekly calls and this community in general, is one way that shows we're trying to trying to have a bigger impact in terms of concrete steps of measuring impact and demonstrating it to ourselves. Yeah, I think there's all the known ways, like looking at how much you're spending on yourself and how much you're giving, seeing whether you've improved or if you haven't improved on these fronts compared to a year ago, seeing how you're using your time now compared to a year ago. Really, you are the best benchmark for your own self. So I'm not so sure how to add anything more to that.
This is just an idea. Maybe we could have surveys from members to kind of at different points in time to see if we've made decisions on how we spend our time or our donation and how much the group has had an impact on us, because if that could be useful in the future. That's just an idea.
Yeah, thanks for that idea. So taking like a survey to see to what effect or to what extent the group has impacted individuals' decisions. I think that's a great idea, and we're going to be exploring ways to do that with the annual survey that I hope we'll issue sometime in around 4 or 5 months from now. So another question here is, are there any plans to increase female engagement with each? And I think this is a great question. We are interested in incorporating everybody from all backgrounds, all sexualities and genders in with each. And if you look at our staff right now, it is predominantly male. And I think that's something that needs to change. I'm very interested in having a staff that represents our community. And I'm very interested in people coming forward. If they're interested in being more involved with each, we can discuss what opportunities are available right now. In terms of more formal policy about these sorts of things, we are still rather early in the organization, and we just submitted our charity registration, and we're looking to adopt a diversity statement and stances on these specific issues. I realize I'm talking a lot, and I'm just one voice on the steering group. So I would be very happy to pass off to other steering group members, or maybe yeah, let's see, what time do we have here? 3:55. We have another 20 minutes or so. I'm very happy to continue answering these questions, but I guess I'll give a pause right now with regards to any of the questions I've already answered. If other members on the steering group and staff would like to speak to them, I'd like to just give you time for that. And if you're interested in doing that, just unmute yourself and hop in.
Not really contradicting anything you said, JD, but just on the last question, I think there is definitely a shared sense that it's a real issue within EA for Christians. It's not just something that, it's not just a box that we want to tick for for the sake of looking good, but it's actually so important. I think even in terms of EA philosophy of wanting to have a diverse range of opinions and get close to the truth by hearing everyone's view. I think that's so important, as well as Christianity being about inclusiveness and everyone being welcome. Yeah, it's a problem in the church. I think it's a problem in the EA movement as well, that men often end up in leadership positions, and we'd really love to change that. So if you are a woman, please do get involved and let us know how we can champion you and support you. And if you know women who would like to be involved, we'd love to have better representation at all levels, at events, in the steering group, on staff. I think it's something that we really want to prioritize.
Yeah, you're doing a great job here, JD, and I love all the questions we're getting today. This is this is a great list of things. I guess if I had to add a couple of comments on the question about funding and whether the model is likely to change, I'd say, yes, our goal is to build a real public charity in both the US and the UK and maybe in other countries down the road. The funding has all come from within the group, so there's no outside anonymous parties funding this thing. This is people in our own community, but because we haven't had an organization yet, we've been working through other EA aligned organizations to sort of process the donations and basically get the tax exemptions. Yeah, we're looking to become extremely transparent very soon when we launch the official entities. I also saw a question on here about does each plan to engage in some of the broader EA discussion on long-termism and other cause areas. I think my view on that is we are a big tent organization, so we have people in our community who have favorite cause areas in all across the map on the different kind of standard EA cause areas such as poverty and animal welfare and long-termism and meta and even evangelism as a kind of a cause area itself has some interest in our community. I think the organization is not looking to weigh in on those discussions and to sort of take organizational positions on cause priority or on anything. I think the reason the existing charity campaign is focused on GiveWell is just because they're sort of this very old organization within EA that picks specific charities, and that One for the World, the organization we've partnered with on that project, is very well embedded with GiveWell. It's not meant to be exhaustive in terms of our view on the charitable landscape or to take a very specific view on that. Finally, the question about, is there a threshold to be Christian enough threshold to be involved in each? That's a good one. I mean, I think we're still working out what we want to do with that. I think the Facebook group has kind of had a open door policy where anyone that expresses an interest in getting involved in the discussions can get involved. So it's there are definitely some non-Christians lurking and participating in that group. As far as what to do with the membership itself and the more active segment, open to ideas on that. I think going forward, I'd love to see some kind of deeper spiritual dimension to this, where we really connect in that way. Finally, the other question that grabbed my attention was, what could persuade us to disband each if it weren't meeting its goals, which is a little bit more like, how do we measure our impact, which I think is an excellent question. And like JD said, there's going to be an increasing focus on KPIs, things like number of members engaging with various events that we're holding, donations that we're influencing. Those are things we can quantify, and we should. If you ask me really what's this all about, though, I actually kind of see this as a long-term type of project, that what we're hoping to do is to really make an impact on the culture of the church as a whole, to really spread this message, and make people's first thought about the Christian faith of like, how do I love more effectively, and to really model the kind of things I think Jesus would have us model, because sometimes we all know that's not being done very well, by the institutional church in some ways, and that takes time, and it's a hard thing to quantify how much impact you're making. But if we lift up the Christian walk of everybody who kind of comes into our path and who has desire to reason carefully and work on evidence, that we help them merge that with their faith instead of seeing them as competing, then I think we're doing our job. Anyway, I'll hand it back to JD, but thanks for all the questions, everyone, and I'm really excited about the group.
Can I maybe add a small? It's more like a meta remark. Like, if you want to follow up on any of these and dig deeper, then yeah, please do. And even if it's not on this call, but if there's one of these questions that really, you think I would have something to add here, like on impact measurement or on the, why isn't the diversity here? And you'd like to sit down on a half-hour call or an hour call and like give advice or ask questions, yeah, we'd be happy to do that.
Great. So I think there's maybe one or two more questions that we could address, but so far, would any of the student group like to comment on any of the other things that have been discussed so far? But if not, I'll answer one or two more questions, then pass it on to staff and the community members. Yeah, Dominic.
I just quickly wanted to underline this thing about how Christian do you have to be, and I really wouldn't read anything off the Facebook group, the open door policy. I think this is pragmatism. We're a small community yet, so anyone who has some link to faith, please come in and talk. But yeah, for the longer term future, I think it would be really nice if there could be the different levels, like especially, and I don't know if this was sufficiently clear, if there are some people who want to not build like an EA church, but have something stronger, a community where, our spiritual lives and the distinctly spiritual things such as prayer, Bible reading, etc., could be more directly linked with the EA. Because what's happening so far, and this is perfectly fine, is that, most of us, we go to a church and then we try to serve the poor, etc., through EA, but it's a bit separated. Some of us have started, some prayer meetings, but it hasn't happened much yet. So for the further future, if there's some chance of like a smaller group, interlinking it more deeply and organically, that would be beautiful. Also, if someone is bugged a bit by, we have some Catholic, we have some very conservative evangelicals, we have some very liberal people. And if anyone is bugged by that, I think it's perfectly fine. It's a sad thing that Christianity is split. And I'm very happy how extremely positively we've been collaborating in the past years across these divides. But if we're a bigger community, maybe 10 times bigger in a couple of years, there's also space that some people, can pursue some projects that only make sense on the basis of some specific vision of Christianity. But we're not there yet. So I'm happy about how we're collaborating in the meantime.
Thanks, Dominic. So I'd just like to address one or two more of these questions while we have time, and then open it up more broadly to staff and the community. So I'm reading a question here about, can you talk more deeply about your strategy to spread each or EA ideas in the Christian community and church? This is pretty upvoted, but I think it's a pretty vague question. I mean, I'd be happy to speak about specific strategy or lack thereof for any specific type of church communities. But I guess with individual congregations right now, we are interested in holding intro talks. And I think this connects with another question regarding, can each be used as a vehicle to engage speaking opportunities at churches and at campuses? Yes, absolutely. We've already secured something like 5 or 6 speaking engagements in the last couple months, and we're looking to secure many times that in the coming months and the next year. And part of that is with our partnership with One for the World. That's actually right now, that's actually how we're getting most of our speaking opportunities outside of what we host in our own Facebook group. And if you're interested in that, if you think your church would be interested in hearing each ideas, or you think it's important enough, then let me know, and I will make sure that we do our best to speak. If you're far away from each member, I don't know if we can travel. Maybe we can travel. I'd be open to that if it's not too far. And if it's close by, then I think, speaking for myself, and I know for several other STEAM group members and staff members, they'd be interested in going and speaking. So just shoot us a quick email or go to the volunteer task board and answer a response for that. But yeah, in terms of specific strategy, for Christian community and church. I think there's not too much that can be said right now, except that we're interested in holding intro talks and holding alpha courses, or not alpha courses, but intro to EA for Christians courses at churches. So that's another way that you can engage your local church. So I think at this point, I'd just like to open it up further. If anybody would just like to raise any questions, I think we have 10 minutes more. Any questions or comments from the staff or from the community? First, I'll pass it on to the staff. Do any staff members have anything they'd like to add to what's been said, or raise any additional thoughts or questions?
I'll just briefly add on. I'm the research coordinator for EA for Christians, as well as the New York City community organizer. I'll be moving to New York City on Tuesday, hurrah. And on the research end, we have two major goals. The first is to build a community of academics and students who are interested in the intersection of theology, philosophy, or ethics, and effective altruism. So I think we're having some great success on that. Our first mini workshop will be this Friday, where we have over a dozen scholars from all over their career walks, from super elite universities to PhD students. So we're really excited for that. I just wanted to point out that in this process, two things. One, the fact our gender diversity is a problem that we're tackling from my role head on. So a large percentage of my hours in doing research for looking at the intersection between theology and effective altruism was looking at different perspectives in that theology. So for example, feminist perspectives or queer perspectives or disabilities perspectives, so on and so forth. And one that eventually comes out, which might be a month or two down the road when all this comes out on hopefully a very beautiful platform where you can see where theology intersects with different effective altruism ideas, you will definitely see some critiques there from these different perspectives. And hopefully that will help with that part, with the gender diversity and such. And secondly, in terms of strategy for trying to influence the Christian church more broadly, I do have a plan of action that I put forward to the steering group, but that's not endorsed by it. So there are strategies and we're working through them right now. We just don't have one that I know of, and maybe JD correct me, that's been endorsed by the entire steering group. So for example, what I'm doing right now is working with academics. And the idea is once you work with academics and spread effective altruism ideas in, say, seminaries, then that can filter down into classes being taught. And that's already happening at one seminary with one specific professor who has taken effective altruism ideas and is implementing it into his curriculum. So that's one type of strategy we're working on.
Thanks, Caleb. Then I'd love to open it up to the rest of the community. Are there any other questions or any other comments you'd like to raise? I think we have about 5 more minutes.
In regard to both building community and measuring impact, and maybe even addressing the gender diversity issue, I've really been liking the ideas that have been floated around at our meeting preceding this, and also now just regarding just specific kind of personal goals, and maybe like posting, a message board of that. That could kind of be a form of a pledge where, in addition to something like the task board, people can have a board where they can say, hey, I'm, my personal goal for the next, month or 6 months or whatever is to do this financially or career wise. And they can act as some sort of a prayer list, but also some sort of a way where people know to be able to follow up. And that can tie into something others have mentioned as a need in this group too, is that, more of a structured mentoring system where people could then, as a result of that message board, or as a result of, accountability relationships that form, can kind of form more consistent, closer relationships like that. So I think, something formalized that could address, pairing people in mentorships, knowing what people's next steps are, having some sort of accountability could address a lot of these things in regard to how we're able to measure impact or know that we're moving forward, not just on a organizational level, but on a member level as well. And I don't know, I think there's a lot of potential for building something like that I don't mean to complete now, but I think that process is a really good one that's getting started and can really be solidified pretty easily. And it seems like that would address several needs that have been kind of mentioned by different members in different ways. And of course, that allows for people, since some of those folks that brought up those issues or ideas were women, that might be a great role for them to play in leadership too, is being part of the organizational process there. So I see relational skills being used very well in that sense, and that could be a cool role for one of the women in leadership in each, if they would want to do something along those lines.
Thanks, Jay. We're getting close to time, but if anybody has one last question or comment, feel free to hop in.
Can I jump in and just say a big thank you to JD for this evening and for everything he's done, and for all of the other staff on the call as well, and the staff not on the call. There's a lot of work that I know goes on behind the scenes, which I get to see and don't do any of it. But yeah, great work, JD and Caleb and Asher and everyone I can see on the screen.
Thanks, Graydon. Well, then with that, I want to wish you all a blessed rest of your weekend. And again, echoing Dominic's thoughts, if there are any questions here or answers that you found unsatisfying or not rigorous enough, then shoot me an email. You can send that at eaforchristians@gmail.com or message anyone on the steering group about that, and we'll do our best to dig deeper. So great. Have a blessed week, and until next time.
Thanks so much, JD. Bye, everyone.
Bye.